Did you want to go ahead? Did you want to?
Um, yeah, I'll go ahead. I'll give you my daughter's.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what we just put in, and it wasn't working. It didn't actually come up on my screen.
Okay, I guess because it's already done. So let's forego that. There's no way I can send the test to you for you to have, and I'm not sure because I send it all the time. But we're not going to worry about that. Let's just proceed, and yeah.
Okay, and like I said, I'm really not sure why this is not allowing. I think when we set this up moving forward, we'll know that we need to actually set up this so that yeah. Okay. You ready to go?
I am.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the Charms Medi Helps Foundation. Um, First, actually, Black Health in the Neighborhoods community event. We're doing this virtual. We are kicking it off by doing the Black Minority Health. And during Black Minority Health, what we have is we have Black maternal fetal health, which is very, very important for those who are thinking about having children, who may already have children, who are grandparents, aunties, uncles, whoever, and they know someone that's, a couple or, that's thinking about considering having children. So often we get scared or we become afraid of, oh my God, that happened to an African American woman. She was given childbirth, or something happens with the baby. Underweight birth, right? We hear all these terms. And so it's important to actually go to the root cause of exactly what it is that we look at when we look at what absence, why these numbers look like this, why there's such a disparity in healthcare when it comes to African American women, when it comes to our African American babies. Why is there a disparity? What's not being addressed that should be addressed to help each of us understand what that root cause is, right? We're always going to the end result. But what happens if we don't go to the root cause? How do we stop these numbers from spiraling out of control? What can be done? Because there's plenty that can be done in the preconceived stage, in the stage that we're going through, the women are going through pregnancy, and then after post-conception. So today we are so very honored to have with us an individual who is going to tell us about herself in a moment. But Miss Sheree Wright is certainly someone that if you're talking about having kids, you're already pregnant, not sure where you should be going, you've had the baby, what next? We're going to hear from her that all about that very important root cause that in our community so often doesn't get talked about. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let Cherie actually tell us all about her wonderful, awesome self, what she's doing to make a difference, and why it is that we chose her as our senior subject matter expert to bring this to you all the way live, this discussion, to bring it to you live and bring it to you on the first of our 4 events that we will be having this month celebrating Black maternal and fetal health. Go ahead, Sheree, it's on you.
Sandra, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you today on this important subject matter and that I am very passionate about. So, thank you for the introduction. And let me tell you a little bit about myself. So, yes, my name is Sheree Wright. I'm actually a registered nurse. I was working in the neonatal ICU for several years earlier in my career. So, I actually have extensive experience in women's health in general, right? So, after my stint in women's health, I transitioned into healthcare sales. And so I spent majority of my years, excuse me, it's like I have a frog in my throat, in healthcare sales, and have now circled back to my true passion, which is health and wellness and living a healthy lifestyle. But I can tell you, Sandra, this topic is near and dear to my heart because not only being a Black woman and more importantly, a mom like yourself, right? But we have so much information that we need to impart on our community for people to be aware of different things that they can do to one, not only optimize their health, when we talk about preparing for those childbirth and child rearing years, right? We have to get our body in the best possible health, healthy state to really have that be a fertile ground. And that's figuratively and literally, right? Figurative ground for the fetus, because we want to be able to give our babies the best start out the gate. And what does that begin with? It actually begins with nutrition. And it's just amazing when I look at the statistics, Sandra, of how there is such a huge disparity when we talk about Black maternal health. And I'd love to share some of those statistics with you all because, we talk about it's 2024 and we're still battling a lot of different things, a lot of the same issues that we've been fighting for a very long time. And when we look at maternal infant mortality rates, especially in the Black community, are you aware that 44% of Black women are likely to actually have a poor pregnancy outcomes? So when we talk about in comparison to our peers, Black women are less likely to access prenatal care, leading to higher rates of preterm birth. We see low birth weight babies and an increase in fetal and maternal mortality. And as a former NICU nurse, Sandra, I can tell you that a lot of the babies that I saw that were born, they were obviously preterm because it's neonatal ICU, right? But when we talk about the low birth weight babies, that's real. And where does that stem from? It stems from the nutritional content that we're consuming, right? Because when we look at the socioeconomic divide, it's real. Food deserts are real, right? And a lot of women who are coming in while they're consuming nutrition, right? It's replete of the actual nutrients and vitamins that the fetus needs to thrive and to develop healthfully. When we talk about neural, cognitive, cardiovascular development, we have to have the right nutrition on board in order to pass that along to the fetus. So it is really something that is detrimental not only to the maternal health, but the fetal health, more importantly, Sandra.
And I thank you so much for that. You know what? One thing that is very often overlooked, especially for women who are in, and especially in our area, and I'm going to say our area, but in our community, and I know this because I've actually spoken to women that this has happened with, is that they want to breastfeed. And so breastfeeding is not as simple as many people might think it is, to breastfeed. I didn't breastfeed my son, but, so many stories about, I want to breastfeed. And you just can't, you gotta think, right? Okay, well, if I'm ready, I'm gonna be breastfeeding. I can't start. when the baby is born, starting to eat healthy, right? So, what happens? Like, what mindset should women that are thinking about conceiving, what mindset should they have when it comes to them actually wanting to breastfeed? What information, nutritional information, is it important for them to have before they even start that trek of this is what I want to do?
Sandra, that is so important because when we think about breastfeeding, right? It is so natural, right? We look at other mammals and other species, and it comes natural. It is just what you do. But there's so many women that are unable to breastfeed. And it's not as simple as production of the milk, right? But it may be where the infant has some type of difficulties latching on. So breastfeeding is a technique, and we do need assistance. And some women may not have access to the care that they're in a hospital where you have the professionals that can assist with proper techniques and teaching you how to breastfeed. It's not as simple as that. And I'm sorry to hear that you were one of those women that you had challenges breastfeeding. But when we talk about nutrients, when we think about breastfeeding and we think about passing along the adequate nutrition that the baby needs to grow and develop, not only mentally, but just on a whole, we're passing on what we're consuming to those kids, right? So we talk about having a balanced diet and one that is actually full with omega-3 consumption, right? Omega-3s, what people don't realize, is so essential to our foundational health, right? And our bodies do not make omega-3s. This is an essential fatty acid that we have to get from nutrition. And when we talk again about food deserts, if our diet is rampant with processed and ultra processed foods, we're actually setting ourselves up and our kids up for just a poor nutritional outlook, right? Because essential omega-3 fatty acids are required in keeping the inflammatory states low. And we talk about having that milk production. You need a balanced diet. You need fruits and vegetables as well as fish. And one thing that I want to touch on, Sandra, when we talk about cognitive development, especially in babies, and they are at that stage, in that early stage where it's so critical to have the essential nutrients that are required for cognition and for development. We're not consuming enough fatty fish in our regular diet, right? And are we supplementing that to our babies in terms of the breast milk that they're getting, in terms of supplements? Because if you look at majority of the things that are fortified in the foods for kids, you'll see that they're fortified with DHA and EPA. And you say to yourself, okay, well, what is that, right? Those are essential fatty acids that's needed for neurological conduction, for neural brain development, eye development, cognitive function. So I would say, Sandra, that anyone that is thinking about breastfeeding, thinking about becoming pregnant, or even throughout your pregnancy, you really need to make sure that you have enough essential fatty acids on board. And I'm talking about omega-3s specifically, because it's so essential to our foundational health and optimizing how our body functions and keeping inflammation down at a low rate. Because a lot of preterm and low birth weight is preventable. It's preventable, right? And that is preventable by actually making sure you have a balanced diet. Now, yes, there are women that come in with comorbidities, right? That is not related to diet per se. But if you're optimizing your nutritional content, you're giving your child, and not only that, your pregnancy, the best outcomes that you can, making sure that you are educating yourself because it starts with empowerment, right? We can't necessarily depend on the healthcare system to educate us in what we need in order to have a healthy, successful outcome. We have to also now be in the driver's seat and empower ourselves, and more importantly, empower our health. And I have to say that it's so important to have an advocate by your side, especially when you're pregnant. You need someone who is there that is going to be your spokesperson when you know that something is wrong with you, right? Because that's a lot of the things that I want to say that is very disparaging, especially in our community, where you go to the doctor and it's implicit bias on most parts, right? Where you know that something is wrong, but they may send you home because it's like, oh, you're okay. No, you can handle that. So it's really having that advocate that's going to push for you. And you are in that area, you're in that space where you do teach people advocacy, resources, and things of that nature that they need to have to ensure that they're setting themselves up on a successful health journey.
And I thank you so much for that. And you're right. No one right now in this state that we are currently in needs to be going to the doctor's office or the hospital by themselves, which is why it's such a big mission for Child's Many Health Foundation to bring in that piece, that missing piece of self-advocacy. Because once you are an empowered patient, you're educated, you're engaged, you know what? You are your own best advocate. So it's like getting us all to reach that point where we're comfortable and confident in being our own self advocate. But for those of you, for whatever reason, can't, we're here for you. We'll help you, we'll assist you with what you need to have done. But it's important that you learn that almighty tool of self advocacy. Because no one, including an advocate, can tell the doctor how you feel about your body or can ask the doctor, well, we're talking about these end results, but what do I need to be doing as far as my nutrition? Or, you're pregnant and you're going to the doctor and you're hearing all these, well, she's overweight, or, she's not taking care of herself, or we don't see a good outcome for the baby, she's non-compliant. All these terms are thrown out you, right? How about bringing it in and having them address with you from the very beginning? Hey, doc, I want to have a healthy pregnancy. What do I do to get a healthy pregnancy? Getting into them conversations where they're actually made to talk to you to help you with what your outcome and your goal is, which is to have a healthy pregnancy. As I stated when we started, we hear so often about the negative parts of being African American and being pregnant. We hear about the disparities. We hear about the deaths. We hear about them not just from, you know, regular people, right? But we hear about these types of stories from our celebrities and from our athletes, and we hear about them. So it's not just touching just one part of the social economic factor, it's raising it up and up and up. But the important thing to know is that we all have a way in which we can deal with this. We all have a way in which we can reach that ultimate health outcome. As Sheree was just saying about about the breastfeeding. How many of you, I mean, can answer that? When you go to the doctors, if you're pregnant now, or you're talking to your doctor about you becoming pregnant at some time in the near future, how many of you have been answered with, well, you really need to have omega-3? How many of you even knew that I should be asking about that? Well, why didn't they tell me about that? Because they're not going to. You need to know these things, right? So you really need to know what's going on. And no one's addressing the fact that, hey, you know what? If you're not living healthy before you get pregnant, then you need to double up your game once you find out you're pregnant. right? And then don't drop the ball after the baby is born, because you still have to take care. Now you have two bodies, the baby and yours, that you have to take care of. I mean, and so it keeps going on and on and on. Sheree, I do want to know, and we talked about this briefly, but I so know that it's so important for people to know. Currently, you're in a sales position, and can you talk about what made you go into that position? And can you also give us an insight on the company and why this company was founded? What circumstance happen which speaks loudly to why women need to actually have these omega-3s and this healthy eating. Can you please give us a background?
Absolutely. So, Sandra, as I mentioned earlier in my career, I was in women's health neonatal ICU. So, I spent some time doing that, and then I transitioned into healthcare sales, and then after that, into academia. So, I have always been passionate about living a healthy lifestyle because, face it, health is wealth, right? And without our health, we have nothing. And secondly, it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle. And so, in my quest of research and exploring different options and better ways of optimizing not only my health, but more importantly, I have an 11-year-old daughter. And, we're always so focused on making sure that we are setting our kids up for educational success, financial success, but yet we neglect that we need to set them up for a healthy lifestyle and a healthy health trajectory in life, right? Because at the end of the day, your healthy foundation begins when you are a child. What you consume as a child follows you into adulthood. And I can truly say that I've been blessed because I had parents that were pretty health conscious. And that's how I was raised. I'm not saying I don't like junk food. I don't eat any of that. I don't have that in my home. I do, but it's moderation, right? So I had that healthy foundation growing up, and it's something that I wanted to impart on my child as well. And more importantly, because she is female and Black, I wanted to make sure, I'm setting her up to have a healthy lifestyle because we know, Sandra, that for Black women, we have a higher incidence of fibroids, PCOS, infertility issues, depression, and so on and so forth, right? And I have to say that it's all linked back to what we're consuming. If our diet is rampant with majority of processed and ultra processed food, like the Western diet is, because it's so easy to have things that are pre-packaged, pre-made, easy. That I call it the microwave generation, right? So we like things that are easy to prepare. And it does take time when you have fresh produce and fresh products and you're cooking fresh and healthily. It does take a little bit more work, right? So if you're a busy working mom, more importantly, if you're a single mom, you're just like, I need to get things going, right? So you tend to go for things that may not always have a healthy option. So with that being said, I have partnered with a company that is a Scandinavian company, and this company has such a history that resonated with me because the founders, actually, the founder's wife, more importantly, had about 14 miscarriages. And they were just very dejected and thought they would never be able to have kids, right? Well, they actually stumbled upon, I like to say stumbled upon because it's all timing and luck, right? So they stumbled upon this physician in Sweden who was actually doing research around omega 3s and taking a deeper dive at really the cell membrane, right? Because we're made up of trillions of cells. And if our cell membrane is not healthy, inflammation builds up everywhere, right? And it leads to a host of different things. So they were under this physician's care, and the wife started taking, a lot of different things and supplements, more importantly. And she started taking omega-3s, and she was able to get pregnant. And so they became a strong believer in making sure that they increased in the awareness and the education of the importance of omega-3s, but more importantly, the test that was developed to really take a deeper dive assessment into what's going on at the cellular level. So, many of us may take supplements, but we really don't know how those supplements are affecting our body, more importantly, affecting our cells, which is why we're taking it, right? To actually have penetration at the cellular level so it can impact your foundational health. So there is a finger prick test that can be done in the comfort of your home. And unfortunately, I cannot pull up the test right now, but I will put a link to what the test results look like, because more importantly, it looks at your cell membrane fluidity. And for those of you out there that may not be familiar with that word, you're like, okay, what is cell membrane fluidity? As I mentioned, we're made up of trillions of cells. And if our cells are not healthy, then that's where inflammation builds up. The cells should be fluid, meaning that waste products can be exchanged and excreted, and nutrients can be adequately absorbed, right? When the cell membrane becomes rigid, where you basically cannot press on it, because it should be pliable if we're thinking of a visual picture of it, right? It should be pliable so you can have those even exchanges of waste and nutrients. When it becomes rigid, then you have a pro-inflammatory state going on in your body. So this test actually tells you the fluidity of your cell membranes. It tells you the ratio of omega-6 to 3s in your body. Because, as I mentioned previously, the modern diet is rampant with omega-6. And omega-6, while our body does need that, too much of it puts us into a pro-inflammatory state. So in the perfect scenario where our bodies are in balance, you should have 3 omega-6s to 1 omega-3. So think of a seesaw, right? You have 3 over on one side and 1 omega-3 on one side, right? That's a perfect ratio to keep your body at homeostasis, where inflammation is kept at a low level. Now, most people and most physicians are not checking things like that, right? Because this is really a test that is a preventative measure that you're taking to see what you're consuming, how it's affecting your cellular level, and more importantly, how it's affecting the inflammation that's rampant in your body. Because we know that a lot of the modern day diseases that we see nowadays, right, like hypertension, diabetes, those things are all based on what you're consuming, with the exception of type 1 diabetes, right, which is a structural defect. But when we talk about type 2 diabetes, that's something that we can actually control through diet and exercise for the most part. But when we talk about our omega-6 to 3 levels, those are things that you don't hear about. And that's something that we can empower ourselves with, right? To see really at a cellular level what's going on in our bodies and how we can actually keep our bodies at a low inflammatory rate. So the company that I've aligned myself with has an omega-3 oil. And I have to tell you, there are a lot of omega-3 oils on the market. However, you have to be careful with what you're putting into your body and make sure that it is a clean product. And when we link this back to women that are trying to conceive or even pregnant, you want to make sure that you're taking a product that, excuse me, that is very clean, meaning that it's non-GMO, it is sugar-free, it's soy-free, it's actually halal certified. So for those that are Muslim and you are concerned with how the product is manufactured or sourced, it's also halal certified. And so one thing that I have to say that gave me confidence as a health professional, Sandra, is the fact that this product was approved by the European Food and Safety Authority, which has very strict parameters of what can be put into the products that they do approve for use to the general audience. And another thing that I wanted to bring up, Sandra, is that, you know, when we look at other developing and modern countries, such as Australia, the UK, they actually have a mandate that all pregnant women or pre-pregnant women that you start taking some form of omega-3s because they understand the importance of having enough omega-3s on board in your system for fetal development to make sure that you have the right environment for conception to take place. And more importantly, that when you are pregnant, that the fetus is thriving in a very fertile nutritional environment where they're going to have that increased neural brain development and more importantly eye development, because they're so omega-3s. What people don't think about is that it is important to everything foundational that happens in our bodies and to the health and structure of our cells. So that is why I've aligned myself with such a wonderful company that has the ability now for you to test in the comfort of your home to see how what you're consuming actually how it impacts your overall nutritional status and inflammatory state. So this is a test that I mentioned that can be done in the comfort of your own home. It is anonymous, and the company does not own the lab that does the assessment. They partner with a very high-tech, prestigious lab that does the analysis, and this lab actually partners with a lot of prestigious institutions such as Harvard, Yale, Massachusetts General, Oxford, and so on to do the analysis. So, you know, when we talk about education and empowerment, this puts you in the driver's seat of your own health, that you can empower yourself to see what's going on at the cellular level and how you can really change the trajectory of your own health outcomes.
And so, with that being said, and I do know that we have a video that we're going to briefly show, but with that being said, what I do want to add is this: it's important, especially in a large part of our urban and rural areas where there are African American moms at or moms to be at, it's important that they have access to great food. I It's important that you do, but we know in reality that you don't. Many areas have food deserts. And unfortunately, even here, you know, I live in Chicago, and I tell people this often. I remember I was at my dentist's office, which is on one side of town, and I was traveling to my home, which isn't on the best, well, it's not in a horrible neighborhood, but it's not as upscale as some of the other neighborhoods. It's one where my dentist's office is. And I noticed how, you know, my husband's like, "Well, you want to stop and get something to eat?" And I was like, "Well, let's just wait until we get like a little closer to home." But as we travel further away from my dentist's office, I was like, "Why is Jimmy's Red Hot and tacos and, you know, everything that we shouldn't be eating? Why is there an over infatuation of these foods? Like, how are we ever going to get healthy? And plenty in the neighborhoods don't have transportation. You know, the fees for them to order food, I went online. I'm not going to give the store because I love them. So I'm not going to get a store, but I wasn't feeling well on Sunday. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't feel like getting up and going grocery shopping. So let me just order something online from the store. My purchase came up to $50. Well, by the time they put the tax and the sales and the delivery, my purchase was at $90. So I had an option. I could say, okay, well, I had an option. I say, okay, well, let me just go ahead and order it because I want it anyway. Or let me get up and see about getting myself together so I can go to the grocery store because this is literally ludicrous to me. And so, and I know that we're able to pay it, but so many in our communities don't have the luxury of paying an additional $40 delivery fee or an additional $10 delivery fee. So we got to go down the street to Joe's Shack and get items that very often are not healthy for us. You know, and we're eating on the run, or we're doing things that is not really healthy for us. And you know, as you're young and you're considering having children, or you have young babies at home, you got to think, hmm, even those that have young children at home, children learn from seeing behavior that's mirrored in front of them. So how are we going to get our children healthy, to eat healthy, think healthy? How we gonna get them healthy if every time they look around we eating a bag of chips, or we drinking pop, or we're doing, you know, something that we shouldn't be doing because that's the only thing that we can afford? So I'm not knocking those who you know I have to go through that because I live in the neighborhood with them. So I'm more than willing to help in whatever way I can. So that's why it's important for me to, you know, as an end for that foundation to get out there. Like, look, there's other ways that you can do this. Like, let's do this together. Like, you know, find, and you know, what you said yesterday was so true. Find what's important to you. Is it important for you to get the nutrition that you really need to grow a healthy family or to maintain a healthy family? Or is it important for you to go out and buy a $200 purse or pay $300 for your nails to get done? Or, and we all love to indulge because it's called self-care. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at your budget and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, where can I get this, this, and this? How can I get this done? You got to ask yourself what's important. Like, what's really, really important to you in order for you to be able to live out that, you know, live out that dream of having a healthy family, or maintaining a healthy family, or just seeing your children grow, or your children, your grandchildren, and nieces, nephews, seeing them grow. What's important, right? And so, Sheree, before we go for the day, I do want to take the time to share this video. And while I am setting up the video to share, it's a really brief video, but while I'm setting up this video to share, if you can give us some statistics in reference to like the amount, like what do the numbers look like in real life time? What do the numbers look like?
Sandra, please clarify the numbers for.
When you're looking at the health disparities and you're
Mhm.
looking at, you know, eating healthy, what, like, is, are there numbers? I should rephrase that. Are there numbers that we can look at, like when we're trying to say, are they just talking? They just want us to do this. Like, are there real numbers that we can look at that will actually show, like, what areas is it that we, you know, have that gap, that disparity gap, right? Where do they
Absolutely.
exist? So that perhaps in looking at the disparity gap and seeing where that disparity gap looks at, looks like, we can get a sense of what it is that we should be paying the most attention to.
Okay, okay. So I know for when we talk about just infant mortality rates, Sandra, you know that one thing, I don't know if you heard recently, the cheerleader, one of the cheerleaders from the Chiefs football team, she actually had a stillbirth and actually died in child labor.
And
And
and I did hear that story. And so I'm glad you brought that up because I heard the story, but the news reports that I was receiving were saying that the cause of death was unknown. So that's very good to know, that to actually bring that out is that this is what actually occurred.
she had sepsis, I believe, from some of the reports that I saw. So you look and you say, okay, but someone like her, you would think that, she's in a different socioeconomic status. What caused this, right? We look at, I believe, Serena Williams, and even at that stature, she had challenges with her pregnancy and so on. So it really boils down to, you know, implicit bias, and two, taking a deeper dive in what's going on at the cellular level. Because I can ask you, Sandra, how often do you consume wild caught fatty fish? How often do you consume that on a weekly basis?
You know what? I would say I consume it at least twice and sometimes 3 times, 3 times a week I'll eat. And that's generally because that's all I eat, right? Most of the time is I'm either eating chicken or I'm eating fish, or but the fish that I love is salmon. So
Okay.
I'll get the wild salmon and I'll eat the wild salmon. Although I've been told, and I have to venture out and be more adventurous, that I need to add other white fish to fatty fish to my diet. So I've been told that. But that brings up another question that's like an offshoot to that. What happens when you don't? And so I guess if you answer your question is those omega threes. So okay, I'm supposed to be eating 5 servings, and I'm just putting this out there. 5 servings of the omegas with the fishes with the the wild caught fishes. When do if I'm not getting enough through my diet, where do I
You
pick
have
that
to
up from?
supplement. You have to supplement
Exactly.
it. And that is
Exactly.
that is where I was getting at. When you look on average, and especially in our community, on average, are we even feeding that stuff to our kids, right? And you
Right.
see a lot of kids with ADHD, with anxiety, and so on and so forth. And you have to say, okay, look at the source of nutrition. What is happening at a nutritional level that we're seeing all of this? Because now, for the first time, I have to say the life expectancy is being decreased. And what is that all tied back to? Diet, what we're consuming. And so the reason why I brought that up, Sandra, is that if we are not consuming wild caught cold water fatty fish on a regular basis and giving it to our kids. And for those that are living in food deserts, they don't have access to that stuff, or they may not even have the financial means to purchase those things for consumption, right? So that's where supplementation comes into play, where this is an essential fatty acid that is needed. Our brain, Sandra, is made up of 60% essential fatty acids. If we're not feeding it the omega 3s that it needs to actually have our cognitive function running at a high level, then it's going to affect our moods. It's going to affect things like brain fog, your mental acuity, your vision, and so on and so forth. So that's where supplementation comes into play. And so I know you have that brief video that you're going to play regarding the maternal pack that we have, but this is for everyone. Omega 3s are essential. before preconception, as well as for the duration that you're on this earth. If you're not getting it through your food sources, you need it. We all need it. And secondly, there's now a test that you can use to assess to see if you have enough omega 3s on board, if you have too much omega 6s on board, and if your cell membrane is healthy, like it should be, to help decrease the inflammatory levels. It also takes a look at your mental status to see if you have enough omega 3s that's supplying your brain, because we know, especially in kids, that is so essential. And I have to tell you, Sandra, when I was pregnant years ago, I ate salmon every day, wild caught salmon every day. I don't know how I didn't get sick of it, but I knew I was eating it for my child to give her the best start that I can by giving her essential fatty acids. So if we're not consuming that at a high amount through our diet, we're deficient. And even the funny thing is, Sandra, even if you're eating healthy, because our food sources have changed in how the soil content is now, the quality of food of our foods now has changed because everything is mass produced. So you'll be surprised for people that think they're eating healthy and they take this test and they realize, oh, wow, okay, my cell, because it all goes back to your cell membrane. If that's not healthy, as I said before, you're going to have things like inflammation that's built up that leads to a whole host of things. So I urge you, if you are watching this, to please contact me, get tested, get the test, empower yourselves with your health. You can change your health outcomes and your health trajectory by educating and also shifting your mindset, a healthier lifestyle, for wanting to give your kids a healthier start in life. And it's also, as Sandra said, yes, we like to look nice and have designer this and so on and have our nails done, hair done. But at the end of the day, it's choosing whether or not you're going to put your resources into your health, because you want to be there for your kids and your loved ones. You also want to be an example for your kids and giving them that healthy future, that healthy life, because it's harder to change your habits when you're an adult if you're used to eating a certain way. And it takes a lot of willpower and mindset shift in order to do that, in order to do so. But if you start from an early stage with your kids, then you're setting them up for a healthy success in life. And why not? Let's change these statistics. Let's change these numbers and do that for our kids, our loved ones. If you're thinking about conceiving, making sure that your body is at that healthy state in order for fetal development, to give your child the best environment internally in your body, as well as when they're born externally. And we need to start shifting our minds in order to empower ourselves more and really just take back our health in our own hands by educating ourselves, to seeing what additional resources are out there, because we don't have to turn to medication and so on. It starts right on your table, right with what you're consuming. And it starts with also supplements, because if you don't have a healthy, balanced diet, you have to supplement. So Sandra, if you don't mind playing that video, you're actually on mute. You're on mute.
Yes, I was taking note of. Actually, I was going to actually pull up the video. Once again, everyone, it's a very short video, but it's important that we actually see this video. And Sheree is going to actually also tell us about, one of the founders' wives who this, omega-3 was actually very important to her being able to push past what she had so frequently faced. And the story, you'll love it. You'll love the end of this story. You'll be like, wow. So it does make a difference. So once again, we're going to go ahead and play the video. Um, then we're going to hear a little bit about the story about the young lady, and then we'll actually end the video for the day, the webinar, I should say, for the day. All right.
In the meantime, while you are looking to play that video, Sandra, as I mentioned previously, the two owners for this company, when it was found, they actually were having fertility issues, and the wife had 14 miscarriages. And actually, she found a doctor that was doing some research, and he was really looking at the cell membrane fluidity, the balance of omega-6 to 3 ratios, as well as the omega-3 index, and really how does that impact your overall, your foundational health. As a result of her being on omega-3 supplements, and keep in mind that not all omega-3 supplements are created equally. It has to have polyphenol in there, which is a high-grade antioxidant that helps to prevent cellular oxidation and actually hampers down on free radicals. We hear that all the time, free radicals around us, right? So this omega-3 oil has a combination of both. So it helps to penetrate more effectively at the cellular level. And as a result of that, I have to say that, they wanted to put this out there to the wider public and how they can actually optimize and actually prevent certain things and health outcomes, because it's all about prevention versus being reactive to our health. And I have to say that that couple actually do have kids today as a result of that. And I'm not saying that this is a panacea or this is going to treat or cure anything, but we know that omega-3s are the foundation to our health.
No, she's actually talking. I actually turned to camera.
We're just having a little
I
bit
don't
of
even know where it
technical
is.
difficulties.
Oh, good. And thank you so much for that, Sheree. What I was trying to do was actually pull the video up. It looked like it started. Well, it's not starting. I'm having a problem, so I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm not sure what I'm doing right now.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Let's walk you through. Did you share the screen first of all while it's playing?
But
Okay,
that's
this is
actually
live. We're having technical difficulties, but we're gonna get through this.
no, because mm, yeah, I'm not even sure what I just did
Okay.
with the video.
No problem. No problem. That's fine. What I would like to do is actually, if anyone would like to contact me for more information or to inquire about the products, I would like to share my contact information. Sandra, if you don't mind pulling that up for others to see and for them to contact me, that would be great.
Yeah, give me just 1 second. I'm not understanding. Sheree, just give me just 1 second because it looks like the video is trying to pull up. And it's only 59 seconds, so we'll have to go in here and edit this so it comes up right. Okay, so I have the video up. It's just not now. I need to actually figure out how to get this to share.
Okay. So at the top, you should see the share button.
Yeah, I do. I have the share button.
And it's not grayed out correctly.
No, it's
Okay.
I got it. Here we go. Are you seeing it? 'Cause-
Yes. But the sound is not playing. That's okay.
No, you said, oh, hold on for 1 second. You
No.
said the sound isn't playing?
No.
Hold on for 1 second.
Something like a little technical difficulties. That's one thing we can't control is technology. So bear with us.
Well, once again, it's a good thing that this is actually um being edited before it goes out, so they'll be actually able to take everything out.
So that means they should be able to play the video with the sound
Right,
too then. Okay,
right.
so we shouldn't have to
Well,
worry
I
about.
gotta put the sound on it, but it's actually Mm. Why do I have you?
There we go. I'm going to put the screen up a little bit higher.
Say that again.
You may want to put the screen like scroll up. There you go. Yep, just like that. So that was just a brief video regarding the maternity balance kit that we have. And I mentioned the ability to test in the comfort of your own home, where this test actually looks at your cell membrane fluidity, basically your foundational health, right? How healthy your cells are. It looks at your omega-3 index, which is a great assessment for cardiovascular health. It looks at your mental strength, which, as I mentioned previously, our brains are 60% essential fatty acids. We need an adequate supply of omega-3s in order to have our cognitive function optimally, right? And actually, it affects our moods as well. So it looks at that. It also looks at, are you okay?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Okay. It also looks at, it breaks down the essential fatty acid profiles. And I have to say, Sandra, there are tests on the market that looks at your omega-6 to 3 ratios, which is what this test does as well. And it also looks at your omega-3 index, but there are no tests currently on the market that looks at your cell membrane fluidity, the health of your cells, which we know is so important to the overall inflammatory status of your body, right? And none that looks at your mental strength. So this is a game changer. This company has done over 1 million of these balance tests globally. We're looking to grow the US market, increase awareness, and empower others that they could be in the driver's seat of their own health by testing in the comfort of their own home. And the test is anonymous. There is no patient identifier or client identifier that goes on the test, such as your name or where you live. The only thing that's required to access the test results is a barcode that comes in each of the test kit. And so this is a health protocol, ladies and gentlemen. You start the omega-3 oil and you stay on it for 120 days later, and then you retest. In fact, the company will send you a free test if you purchase the initial kit. They'll send you a free test after the 4th month for you to retest yourself, because if you have been compliant and you have been on the omega-3 oil from the beginning to 120 days later, you will start to see some cellular changes. And now you have the ability to test that, because previously we take supplements and we just hope they work, right? You don't know if they work or not. Now you have the ability to test to see if it does work. And why does it take 120 days later to see any changes? Because this is working at the cellular level. Our red blood cells live and die off every 120 days. And in order to see any type of changes, it's advisable to wait 120 days to see where you progress from the beginning to 120 days later. And as I mentioned, Sandra, omega-3s are essential fatty acids. Our body does not produce it. It's essential for everything from our cognitive function, our cardiovascular health, how our muscles function, everything. It's foundational health. And so if we're not consuming enough of that through diet, we have to take it through supplementation. This is from pre-pregnancy all the way until we're no longer here on this earth. And it's even more essential if you are pregnant, pre-pregnant, or kids, because that's where they really need that I want to call it the brain boost, where they need to have the correct nutrients on board for their cognitive development.
So thank you so much, Sheree, for that. And so as it relates to maternal fetal health, the particular test and the omega-3, if she, as she stated, it takes, 120 days, then that means if you're in a preconception stage of we want to have a baby, we want to have a healthy baby, that means you add that 120 in. It's just like a budget. You add that 120 in and say, okay, well, we're going to start this process now so that when we look back, when we look forward 120 days, we'll know where we're at. We'll know if, what it is, how healthy it is as far as a woman, how healthy is my body towards being able to have a healthy pregnancy. And so you want to start, you don't want to, once again, we do a lot of times, we do stuff a lot of times that we look back on it, but you now know that if you are thinking about having a baby, there's some things that you need to do, in order to consider bringing a healthy baby into the world that we're not normally told about by a medical team. I mean, and the truth be told, while they might want to, medicine is now a business. So unless you know, or you know someone that knows, and you have someone that you can talk to about it, you're not gonna find out. So please use the words that Sheree has given us. We're sorry for any technical difficulties that may have come up, but please use the words that Sheree has given you. She take it from experience. One, she was a neonatal nurse. She saw what was going on. She lived. This was a lived experience for her. She lived it while she worked there. Even when she wasn't working, she was living it at home because she had her own daughter. And so she lives it now as she goes out and she tries to educate patients, especially women, especially Black women, on what they need to be doing in order to be a vital part of this pregnancy journey. She tries to explain it to you. And she did a wonderful job today, and we are so grateful for her. Sheree, please have the rest of a beautiful, beautiful day. I will get you this link as soon as we are able to get it edited. It will actually be sent to you as well. Okay.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today with you and to just talk about my passion of health and wellness and helping to, more importantly, empower others to be in the driver's seat of their own health and know that you are what you eat, essentially, and now you can really test for that. So please put my contact information up there for anybody that would like more information about how to get the test, the omega-3 oil, or if you just have any questions, please do so. Thank you again, Sandra, and I hope you get rid of that cough and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Are you seeing the information?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
it's there.
Okay.
Wonderful.
You're welcome. All right. So as we close out, if anyone is in need of this information again, please reach out to me on social media platforms or please send me an email at sandra@chalmsfoundation.com so that I can get you this information. And once again, as Sheree was saying, you are what you eat, but mothers to be, not only are you what, especially if you're breastfeeding, not only are you what you eat, but you're also what your babies are eating. You're also what your future babies, once they're conceived, you're also what they'll be eating. So, make sure that you're doing all you can to make sure that you bring forth a healthy pregnancy, and more importantly, a healthy baby. Thank you, Sheree.
Thank you, Sandra.